So July 28th, 2025, a new law hits the books in the UK. And according to the source we're looking at today, it effectively ended, well, maybe 140, maybe even 336 years of free speech.
Yeah.
That's quite the claim, isn't it? Centuries of liberty just gone.
It is a very bold claim. And yeah, what really jumps out is just how dramatic that assertion is. We are diving into the UK's Online Safety Act today. And it's important to note our source here is a very specific YouTube video analysis, highly opinionated, so it's offering one particular pretty stark perspective on the act and, well, what it means.
Exactly. So that's our mission for this deep dive, really, to unpack what this source is actually claiming. We want to get a handle on its interpretation of the law's reach.
Yeah.
And explore these consequences it talks about for online freedom, privacy. It sounds quite alarming. We're aiming to pull out the key points, the surprising bits from this viewpoint, just to get you informed quickly. Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, so the source, it doesn't hang about. It states right off the bat, July 28, 2025, the Online Safety Act is in effect. And then, boom, that claim we mentioned. This act marks the end of centuries of free speech. And the source is very clear, saying, this is not clickbait.
Right. That's a serious tone. And the video argues, okay, the government says it's under the guise of protecting children online.
Mm-hmm. The official line.
But the source claims its real purpose is to launch an internet surveillance system.
Mm-hmm.
And it even suggests that if maybe you haven't heard this angle much in the media, well, the source alleges silence or positive spin is down to threats of license cancellation. That's a pretty heavy accusation to lead with.
It really is. And from this viewpoint, the act brings in sweeping powers to censor any online content they deem offensive. That's a quote. And it also argues the act allows spying on private messages, plus severe punishment for social media companies if they don't toe the line. So a key insight here, as they frame it, isn't just censorship, but building a kind of framework for digital control. Widespread control.
And what really caught my eye is that, according to this source, these powers are supposedly already being used. Now, to suppress dissent. It mentions specific examples like footage from the Free Speech Union, the FSU, or other protest stuff on X, Twitter,
right,
being blocked or just removed, and the reason given. Huge fines, apparently, hanging over the platforms. And the source is keen to point out it's not just targeting the obvious stuff like porn or violence, but also things like criticism of government policy. It mentions a film about the net zero agenda.
The climate targets.
And even parliamentary speeches being age-gated or restricted somehow.
Yeah, and the video draws this pretty stark parallel. It links this to the emergency COVID lockdown powers back in 2023. It alleges that back then there was this special elite government security services and police unit set up specifically to surveil and, well, suppress information, things about vaccines, lockdowns.
Right.
And the source even claims they ran a propaganda office and used services like BBC Verify, implying, they were used to push certain narratives.
So how are the actual platforms, the tech companies, reacting on the ground? Our source says they're already rolling out what it calls dystopian measures, things like facial scans and ID verification, just to see content. That sounds like a very direct impact on users right away.
It does, and this feeds directly into what the source sees as the bigger picture, a much broader kind of unsettling agenda. It asserts these measures are really just stepping stones towards a full digital ID system. And the claim is this ID will eventually link up your banking details with your political views.
That's serious.
That's the assertion. And all supposedly under the banner of proving that you are not a criminal. The source actually expresses sort of shock, maybe frustration at public acceptance, noting that even some people with, quote, high IQ seem to lack the common sense and logic to see where this could lead.
And there's more, apparently. The source also flags the creation of a national police unit to monitor what you say online. So it's not just Ofcom or the companies themselves, but direct police monitoring of online speech.
Right. And this is where we start hearing about the pushback. Significant pushback. The analysis really stresses that privacy experts and major tech firms are sounding the alarm. They're warning that actually doing what the act demands isn't technically possible without, fundamentally weakening encryption, which means creating a backdoor, essentially, a way for the government to get in. And argument is this doesn't just affect potential targets. It makes everyone less secure. It creates vulnerabilities bad actors could exploit.
And it's not just abstract warnings from experts, is it? The big companies are taking action. You've got giants like Apple, Meta, so Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Signal. They've actually publicly threatened to pull their services from the UK, calling the demands wrong and dystopian. That's a massive statement. economically and technologically.
Huge. And the international community is apparently watching closely, too. The source points to the European Court of Human Rights, the ECR, which reportedly stated the act cannot be regarded as necessary in a democratic society. That's pretty strong language. They raised legal concerns at the highest level and specifically mention mass surveillance, no warrant required. So that perspective highlights real global worries.
And the power given to the regulator, Ofcom, seems to be a major sticking point for this source. It emphasizes Ofcom can now just order scanning with zero judicial oversight or transparency. Zero. No
Yeah.
judge involved.
And maybe even more worrying, according to the source, is that the government hasn't even defined what counts as safe or acceptable scanning, which, as the source puts it, just leads to no oversight at all for these really powerful new tools. Which then raises that question about the precedent this sets, globally. Civil society groups, Amnesty International, Index on Censorship, the EFF, the source, quotes them, warning this could be copied by other regimes. These groups, according to the source, compare the powers, especially something called Clause 122, to authoritarian surveillance regimes, including North Korea. It even says some new policies are on par with North Korea.
On par with North Korea. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so which platforms are we actually talking about here? Who's affected? The source lists quite a few, though it says not all straight away. The big social media players, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, X, Reddit. And it mentions Wikipedia is in a big legal case about it right now.
Yeah, but it doesn't stop there. The source says cloud storage is also in scope. So Google Drive, Dropbox, Microsoft OneDrive, iCloud. And here's something I found genuinely surprising. Gaming and virtual platforms like Roblox, Fortnite, VR Chat, Meta Horizon Worlds, they're mentioned too. And the source includes this warning that gaming headsets could potentially allow listening to conversations in the room. That really broadens the potential scope of surveillance way beyond just text messages or posts.
So if this perspective is on the mark, what's the bottom line for the average person in the UK? The source sums it up pretty bluntly. The Act has found a legal way to make your private messages searchable, even if they don't call it surveillance.
And how are people reacting? Well, the source reports a huge spike, an explosion in VPN use. Virtual private networks, saying millions of Brits already bypassing the law. That suggests a very clear, popular counter-reaction.
Right, VPNs. And our source definitely champions them, praises them for safe browsing, secure storage, getting around geo-blocks with global servers. It highlights threat protection features against malware, trackers, fast speeds, dedicated IPs. And it mentions advanced stuff too, like MeshNet for creating your own private device network and data boot scanners. Plus the core features. Military-grade encryption that's very strong data protection and a no-logs policy so the VPN provider doesn't track you. And often being based in places like Panama, outside those big invasive surveillance alliances.
But there's a catch, or a potential future catch. The source also flags a worrying development. It claims the Labour Party, specifically mentioning MP Sarah Champion and something called Clause 54, is looking at banning VPNs down the line, which, if true, would obviously be a major blow to digital privacy efforts and close off that workaround.
So, stepping back, what's the deeper meaning behind all this, according to the source? It actually quotes Elon Musk, saying the Act's purpose is simply suppression of the people. And it points to a big petition, 358,000 signatures, apparently ignored, drawing a parallel again to those emergency powers overriding public opinion in the past.
Yeah, the source's final conclusion is incredibly stark. It says this bill is not about safety, full stop. Instead, it claims the real goals are centralizing control of speech, normalizing surveillance, removing digital anonymity, and conditioning people to obey. And it uses that analogy, comparing the UK government's methods not to tanks and guns like North Korea, but controlling people with fear and propaganda. All, it claims, under the pretense of child safety. It's a really powerful and frankly quite frightening summary of their viewpoint.
So that's the perspective we wanted to unpack. A deeply concerning take on the UK's Online Safety Act. We've heard about its alleged sweeping powers, the potential for mass surveillance, the strong pushback from tech firms, human rights groups. The source definitely paints a picture where the stated aims and the perceived reality are miles apart.
Absolutely. And given the impacts described, the immediate changes, the dire warnings from the source, it really makes you think, doesn't it? What does this deep dive suggest about that tricky balance? Online safety versus individual privacy versus government control, especially now everything's so digital. And maybe more broadly, how could laws like this, these trends, affect digital freedom elsewhere, around the world? Could it set precedents? Definitely something to keep thinking about as we all try to navigate this, well, this rapidly changing digital world.